Good afternoon, everybody. Your chattering magpie is here, excited on this Myne day because we get to read some more A World Away. And also, it's been a weekend without you guys just drags. So I'm excited to to hang out with you guys once again. Hello, gang. How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? And are you ready to read?
I'm not.
What happened? What's going on? You sound interesting.
I got sick.
How dare you get sick? Patrick? Oh, Patrick, I hope you feel better. Honestly, though, with the winter and it's bound to happen to the best of us. So, sorry you can't read today, but I'm glad that you're here with us, and I hope you feel better. Also, hello to the people on the early gang who just happened to be the same people here. I know I made the event super late, so if it's just us on the YouTube, that's fine. That's plenty. Where there's 2 or 3 gathered, All right, so hello to Hirami, who was the very first one who said hi. Early gang says, "Where are you?" Calling out all the early gang. Here is also Yukihime, Little Butterfly, and Teal, who informs us that she just finished highlighting chapter 100 right in time. We are reading today chapter 90. Ooh, I made a mistake here. It's not 97 and 98. It's actually 98 and 99. So we are so close to the end, you guys. You have no idea. I think I'm planning for 115 total chapters, so we're really that close. So if we do the math and say 2 chapters per session, that's 8 sessions, then that's probably a month. We have a month left of A World Away. That is if I finish writing the chapters. If I don't finish the chapters, we'll be like, okay, we'll do like a little hiatus for about a month while I catch up, and then we'll pick it up again. So not sure what you guys want to do, but either way, it's as the muses say, I am a slave to the muses. So anyway, so yeah, excited to almost get to chapter 100. And no, we're not going to be reading 100. We're only going to be reading 98 and 99, like I said earlier. That's like 16 slides, so that's plenty to get us through the hour. Patrick does remind us, since he can't speak very well and his voice is kind of interesting, he does say to like, subscribe, and support your magpie. Thank you for that timely reminder, Patrick. I appreciate it. Were you going to say something? I think I saw you glow.
Yeah, I'm trying to save my voice, so I'm trying to type it.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That is very wise, and you basically screamed it out in the chat. I love the effect that uppercase words, all uppercase words has in the chat. You can just hear the screaming. So yeah, you do that. You scream on the chat. You do it. Make yourself heard.
Because Magpie won't do it unless we remind her.
I would do it too. I would. Give me a little credit. So, Fergie is on the chat. Are you still watching, Fergie? Says, I am making dinner right now. Fergie, we would have loved to have you read, but don't worry. You can always join us and hang out here. And most importantly, that you nourish your body and eat your dinner, and yeah, that's important too. So enjoy. Let us know what you're having. I just had breakfast about 2 hours ago. I had soup and toast sourdough bread with some cheese on it. Yeah, that was yummy. That was breakfast for me. They did some work in the kitchen, you guys. This is a funny story. Did some work in the kitchen, and they told us you're forbidden from using the sinks and basically the whole, because they redid the countertop, so we couldn't use it for like a day or 2. Oh, well, the day before, my mom was like, well, I'm make some tamales. So we started off with just making 36 tamales, right? And because we were going to give them away to like some folks in the church for tamales. And then we did a few more. So we ended up with like about 100 tamales. So ever since like Thursday and Friday, I think that was all I ate, just tamales. And by the time it was Saturday, of course I didn't eat at home. I wasn't at home. But Sunday morning I wake up, I'm like, I don't want Mexican food. Let's go to Denny's. We're gonna have some pancakes. And so we did. We had pancakes, and that was a delight because I usually don't eat pancakes or, stuff like that. So that was a nice treat.
Well, you can never have too many tamales.
You can. You know what my dad did? My mom and I were working. We were not at home. He stayed at home on Saturday. I tell you, he had 3 tamales for breakfast, 3 tamales for lunch, and 3 tamales for dinner. I was like, Dad, that is so bad for you. So on Sunday when we go eat and have breakfast, it's like, okay, you're not gonna eat tamales anymore for the rest of the day or whatever. We still have some in the fridge and the freezer, so we probably should give more away, but no, we shouldn't. We'll just put them in the freezer, and then we'll eat them later. But yeah, for those of you who like tamales, what are your favorite kinds? Let us know. Let me know.
Shredded pork.
Shredded pork. What kind of salsa or what kind of sauce? Red, green?
Red sauce.
Ah, okay.
I've never eaten.
Oh, Yukihime. I forgot you're in Europe. Europe gang is... Oh. Well, you have delicious food that we don't have access to, but yeah.
Do you eat the leaves? Do you eat the leaves?
No, that's just kind of like the wrapping that you steam them in.
Yeah, the corn husk is not edible.
Yeah, no, it's not edible. We just kind of like wrap it up like a baby, then you steam it, and then it's...
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have a lot of steamed stuff here in general.
How about like cabbage leaves, stuffed cabbage leaves?
Those are very traditionally here, and we eat the leaves. That's why I was asking. But then we boil them for like 3 hours. So.
Ooh, wow, yeah. I think cabbage is pretty much edible. But like corn husks at no point are edible. I can imagine that.
I understand. Also, you have to remember that cabbage needs to be like fermented. So like, I mean pickled. It has to be sour.
Wow, really? I've never had the sour ones. I've just seen like people just kind of like soften them up somehow and then just stuff them with stuff.
Fermented cabbage kind of makes me think of kimchi.
Yeah, it's pretty similar from my understanding of kimchi, which is not a lot.
You know what? I've been wanting to get into the fermented food situation because a lot of our foods are so lacking in probiotics and healthy stuff and cultures. So I want to get into that. I have at home kefir, and my sister has kombucha SCOBY, I think she calls it. But we're very neglectful of our creatures, so they're languishing. So probably I should pause before trying to do fermentation. But there's something that scares me about fermentation, and that is botulism. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna catch it. I don't know if something is gonna go
also,
wrong.
Don't be so scared. Just follow a recipe. Like I've seen like so many videos that were like people internationally just seeing stuff that is being deposited like without a pressure cooker or something, and they're like, no, you're gonna die without. Like people have been eating that for thousands of years, so like just follow a traditional recipe wherever you prefer. Like I recommend Eastern European because like we ferment all the vegetables, all of them can be pickled, and they're very great and very pretty.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a Middle Eastern store close to my house, and we shop there all the time. They have really good deals on produce, and they have like everything from like Middle East, from Turkey, from like the Balkans area. So it's not just Middle Eastern; they
mhm,
carry from like international, and like
I understand.
I really like to go down the aisle and see like the pretty jars of like the pickled beets, and it's like fuchsia and then like yellows and oranges of like the different other vegetables.
Yes.
So um
Yeah.
I do my mom and I do make pickles, like, but those are totally different from fermentations, which I learned recently that that's different. So we make pickled jalapenos, so we hardly ever buy them from the store. We always make them at home.
That's great.
Mhm.
It's great for the things that you eat often to like prepare them yourself.
Right?
So fun.
Right.
Especially if you can make like a batch, like massive
Oh yeah.
ones.
Yeah, definitely. Though for the jalapenos, I don't eat that much hot stuff, like spicy stuff, but I have a weakness to jalapenos, you guys. And one time my mom made like a big jar and she left the country. When she returned about like a month later, they were all gone, and I was like, "Mom, you need to make some more." Because mine are not
They
as
were
good as
good.
hers. She was absolutely shocked, and she's like, "Your poor stomach. How have you handled the acidity?" It wasn't the heat that she was worried about; it's the acidity. And I just love acid stuff. Like I don't eat spicy stuff, but acid stuff is my jam. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yes,
Yes.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
Fully agree. I make talking about this. What I do make at home, like I don't really pickle stuff anymore, like only in the countryside. But what I do make is like industrial quantities of tomato paste. That is
Oh,
something that I go
wow.
to the countryside and spend like an entire day with like an electric mixer, which thankfully now is electric. When I was a child, it was not electric.
Oh. See, there's uses
I
for
was like,
technology. There's uses for technology.
yes, yes. So, like I'm making like hundreds of liters of of tomato paste.
Har har, Fergie. It says you love acids. Sounds basic. Oh my.
Usually
Oh,
it's Teal who's making the puns.
I know. But I appreciate puns from anybody. So that was one that I was
Oh.
able to understand because I'm pretty much like not smart in some things. So I was able to draw from my chemistry knowledge from that. Oh,
Well, you all heard it here first. She admitted it. She's not smart.
yeah, I'm not smart in some areas, okay? Jeez. Some areas.
The last time I was in San Diego, I went to this hole in the wall dive bar out in Mission Valley, and me and my friend, we ordered these grilled jalapenos, which came with cream cheese in them, thinking, oh, this will be like jalapeno poppers. I've had those before, no problem. These must have been like a weird mutant breed of jalapenos, because I've never even tasted a habanero that's that hot.
Dang.
Holy cow! And I'm dying, and the bartender lady, she's not paying attention to us at all. She's down at the other end of the bar, just hanging out with her friends, and we're hollering and we're saying, we need something for this fire.
I'm sorry for laughing, but wow, jalapeno. Wow.
The waitress finally comes over, and I'm like, please pardon me, but I'm white. I can't handle this heat. She's like, I'm Mexican. I can't either. we got a good laugh out of that one.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm very careful when it comes to spicy stuff, but you know what? Spicy does add a little something to life. So you sometimes have to take the leap. Though personally, I wouldn't. But jalapenos, you would never expect them to be diabolical. So Yeah, that was an absolute betrayal. But good on you for surviving and living to tell the tale, Patrick. All
I
right.
mean, alcohol does a great job of washing away that spicy.
Really? I did not know that. Okay. Good to know. Let's see, you guys. We should probably get started as we've been at, chit-chatting here, just shooting the breeze, as we usually do when we're on the server, by the way, you guys. Join us if you want, just to hang out with us, talk about whatever. You can join my Ko-fi server and have, not my Ko-fi server, you can join my Ko-fi and have access to the server. And then you can read as well, like the fine folks that are gathered here to read. So, we're reading today chapter 98. Reading today is, Myne will be read by Hirami, Elvira will be read by me, Magpie, Fran will be read by Yukihime, the Doctor will be read by Little Butterfly, and Eckhart will be read by Teal. Alright, so TLDR of what happened in the last read-along, that was chapter 96. Basically, they went Peru hunting, and things took a dire turn while they were out in the forest. They got attacked. There was a trap set out for them, but that trap was a trap for the traptors. So it was kind of like all.
It was a trap within a trap within a trap.
Yeah, just like that. But the result was that Dolores almost ended up dead. Her hand got bitten and chewed out. Arm dislocated, and she basically thought she was a goner. She had told Myne to just leave, fly to safety. But Myne returned, with the rest of the Knights Order that were there, and with Angelica, and they saved the day. Myne regrew and healed Dolores's arm or hand, whatever. But when we switch back to Sovereignty and Ferdinand, Eckhart, and Eustace are there, they receive the news that Myne is pregnant. Or at least Eckhart and Eustace it's late when they receive the news that Myne is pregnant. So we are now going to learn what is... I don't know, how did people react to this incredible news? News that we all thought was never going to happen. Let's do this.
Yay!
All right, so... Chapter 98. News. Summary. Myne grapples with the fact, or the news, that she's having a baby. Myne held it together during the frantic flight back from the noble's forest, driven by a sense of duty and urgency as she transported Angelica and an unconscious Dolores back to the Linkberg estate. However, the moment they arrived and she saw Dolores carried inside, the adrenaline that had been fueling her gave out. She staggered, her vision blurring, and barely made it to a potted plant before she emptied the contents of her stomach in it. Her body began to shake as the trauma of the morning's events finally hit her. Visions from the attack flashed in her mind like haunting specters. The arrow lodged deep in Angelica's shoulder, the slithering black tails and razor-sharp claws of the leopard and bears, the gleam in their monstrous eyes as they closed in on her. But what had struck her the hardest was the memory of Dolores, her face pale but set in grim determination, as she drove her sword into one of the beasts, reducing it to black slime, only to be overwhelmed by another.
Blood, so much blood.
Myne retched again, but this time the heaving was accompanied by sharp, unbearable cramps. She crumpled to the ground, clutching her stomach, clenching her chattering teeth together to prevent herself from howling out in agony and alarming people. "Myne!" she heard Lady Elvira's panicked voice. She was next to her, but somehow the sound came as if she was a long ways away. "Myne, what is the matter?" Myne couldn't reply. The pain was so unbearable that she couldn't even breathe, let alone speak. But there was something more alarming. The pain was one thing, but she could also feel that she was practically empty of mana. No wonder she was shivering so.
A potion. I need a potion.
But before she could articulate the thought, the world around her dissolved into a chaotic din. Voices swirled around her, growing distant and indistinct, until she heard one that cut through the black confusion of her panicked mind like a beacon in the storm.
Excuse me, my lady.
Fran's voice broke through the fog of her agony. He knelt beside her and pressed something to her lips. The herby, pungent scent of a potion wafted up to her nose, making her gag. Yet despite the shaking and the nausea, she reached for it eagerly.
Friend, it hurts. It hurts so much.
She gasped as she returned the vial with shaking fingers, feeling the potion's effect slowly begin to take hold.
I drank a recover potion early. Why?
You must have used a great excess of mana, but everything will be all right now, Lady Myne.
Fran assured her, his voice gentle as he scooped her into his arms.
Lord Ferdinand's potions are always the most effective. Please hold on until we get you to your room and the doctor sees you.
Myne nodded weakly. While her stomach still hurt and spasmed painfully, she no longer felt that numbing coldness indicative of depleted mana. She found Fran's voice very reassuring, and she surrendered completely to his care, trusting him as she always had. As Fran carried her with the same tenderness he had shown her when she was a frail, sickly child, Myne whispered,
Thank you.
before the pain receded and unconsciousness mercifully claimed her. Myne's sleep was restless, plagued by feverish dreams and disjointed memories. She felt as if she were adrift on a stormy sea, tossed from one wave of confusion to the next, each one pulling her deeper into its dark depths. Occasionally, she surfaced from the swirling chaos to catch glimpses of reality. Lady Elvira's worried face hovering above her, her attendants bustling around her bed, their voices muffled and indistinct. In one dream, she saw her mother tending to her, as she had in those days when she was bedridden in their small house in the lower city. Aoife's green eyes, filled with worry, looked down at her as she placed a cool compress on Myne's burning forehead.
Sing me a song, Mom.
Myne whispered, seeking comfort in her mother's familiar, soothing voice. Aoife began to sing, but as the melody continued, it shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't Aoife's voice anymore. It was the voice of Urano's mother from her past life. Urano's mom appeared beside her, holding a bottle of water to her lips and urging her to drink. Myne opened her mouth, expecting water, but instead another potion was poured down her throat. How many potions were they making her drink? She struggled weakly, trying to resist, but her efforts were futile. The potions kept coming, one after another. Eventually, the dreams blurred as reality tugged at the edges of her consciousness, pulling her back to reality. The day after the incident, Myne lay very pale and still under her covers, looking up at the elderly doctor and unable to make sense of what she was saying to her.
Despite the strain from earlier,
The doctor began, her voice steady but laced with concern.
the child in your womb is safe. Frankly, it's astonishing that you could crush several archknights and still cast healing blessings. What? You even grew a limb.
Astonishing.
Astonishing. It's no wonder your baby turned against itself and you collapsed. It's a miracle you didn't miscarry after such recklessness, you must take better care of yourself and never attempt anything like that again while pregnant.
Myne blinked, stunned.
Pregnant?
She was certain the physician was having fun at her expense, but as the realization dawned on her that this was no joke, the woman's words echoed in her mind over and over again, and the terrifying implication of what could have happened. Pregnant? All this time? And she'd come close to harming her baby without knowing it? Pregnant? She had carried this child all winter without the faintest idea. It was something she had only ever imagined in the distant future when she and Eckhart were settled, married, and living the life of a proper noble family. But now the truth hit her like a wave, leaving her breathless and disoriented. Desperately seeking some explanation, Myne latched onto a memory.
No, not regular by any means, but I'm still received Gedul's visit in the past few months. There was no symptoms.
Her monthly courses had been drastically lighter than usual. What's more, they had been as irregular as ever, but she had chalked it up to her emotional state. It had been similar to what had happened in the early autumn when she had struggled to adjust to life in a noble's district. The doctor nodded, her expression thoughtful.
Such symptoms are
Aren't common?
are some symptoms aren't common, but it's not unusual for some women to experience spotting while carrying Geduld's burden. If your mana becomes unusual, or if you experience emotional upheaval, the usual signs of pregnancy might not appear.
But I wasn't even sick.
Myne's voice trembled.
Isn't morning sickness common?
The doctor smiled gently.
Consider yourself fortunate to have been spared that. Tell me, did you notice any changes in appetite? Any cravings or perhaps a lack of appetite?
Myne shook her head.
Not really.
A soft snicker drew her attention, and she saw Lady Elvira, her future mother-in-law, trying to contain her laughter. "Oh, Myne dear," Elvira said, eyes sparkling with amusement. "Don't try to deny it. The poor cook is beside herself since you nearly devoured all the sugar in the house." The sight of Lady Elvira laughing so openly brought Myne back to her senses. She forced herself to accept the truth with an outward show of happiness, if only to keep Elvira's spirits high. After the examination, the doctor gave a few final instructions, while Elvira gently encouraged Myne to rest in bed after the previous day's ordeal.
What ordeal? Oh, yes. Now I remember.
Had it only been a day since she, Angelica, Dolores, and a handful of treacherous knights had ventured into the forest to gather peruse. The memory made her stomach lurch, and she knew with certainty she would not crave peruse for a long time, if ever again. She curled up on her side, instinctively wrapping her arms around herself. A baby. She was going to have a baby. Eckhart's baby. She should have felt joy and gratitude for the miracle she and Eckhart had prayed for, but instead all she felt was a deep, overwhelming dread. She wanted to cry, but she didn't. She could no longer allow herself such childish weakness. She was going to be a mom, so she had to be strong, even as the prospect filled her with terror.
What I am to do now?
The next morning, the soft rustle of footsteps stirred Myne from a restless sleep. Expecting Delia or Feline, she blinked against the cold morning light filtering through the curtains. But as her vision cleared, she saw Eckhart standing at her bedside. His presence, usually so commanding, was softened by the warmth in his gaze and the tender smile spreading across his face.
Myne,
he whispered, his voice filled with so much emotion that it made her heart ache. He sat beside her in bed and took her hands in his. She had half expected this to be another dream, but she knew that she could never conjure up in a dream the life-giving warmth of his strong hand, as it held her own cold one. Her eyes filled with tears. Seeing him, even if it had been a dream, would have given her such comfort. But this was no illusion. He really was there.
Eckhart!
She cried with joy and sat up. His arms were around her in an instant, and his lips on hers. No dream could have been more wonderful.
I heard the news.
He said when they finally separated.
Mother wrote 2 days ago. I came as soon as I could, but I heard you were gravely ill.
He looked concerned.
Are you well?
A wave of emotion crashed over Myne as she saw the tears glistening in his eyes.
I am fine. I am well.
Her voice broke, and she squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his touch.
But I'm so glad you came. I was so afraid.
He nodded.
I was too at first, especially when I found out about the ambush and how it put your life and our child's life in danger.
He sighed, his thumb gently brushing over her knuckles.
I was terrified. But afterwards, when I heard you were both safe, I thought, maybe this is the gods looking out for us and giving us another chance. A chance to put things right.
Tears welled up in Myne's eyes.
Well,
You kind of broke up there.
Could you read it again, Jeremy?
yeah. But what if something's go wrong? What if we lose the baby? What if...
Eckhart gently shushed her, leaning closer until his forehead rested against hers.
No more what ifs.
He whispered.
This child is our miracle, and I believe, truly believe, that everything will be all right. She's a strong baby, Myne. A fighter, just like her mother. You never once gave up when you had the devouring, did you?
Myne managed a soft smile, but it was tinged with sadness. She wished she could be sure and optimistic about the future as Eckhart was. But how could she? How could she explain the irrational fear that gripped her heart, the terror of being a mother? But if she told him about what she was fundamentally scared of, she'd have to explain everything about herself, about her past life, about Uranomotosu and the world of dreams she'd once lived in. Would he believe her? Or would he think she was mad, dismissing her fears as foolish? She looked up at Eckhart, studying his face. He hadn't changed much since the last time she'd seen him. Still patient, warm, and loving. And all the time they'd known each other, he had seen her do and say some crazy things. She had caused trouble for him and others, and yet he had never left her. He was still here. If she had to trust anyone with such a tremendous secret, it would be him, just as she had trusted Ferdinand long ago. It didn't take long for her to tell him the story, how she had once been a book-loving girl who died buried in an avalanche of books and woke up in the body of Myne. She told him how all her revolutionary ideas were just fragments from her old world. Eckhart listened silently, his expression intent and shifting from surprise to understanding, as if a missing piece of a puzzle had finally fallen into place. Then, She told him about her family life. She told him how she'd had a loving mother and father, but after her mother's death, it had only been the two of them. Myne felt warm tears of regret roll down her cheeks as she recalled her poor mother, wondering what had become of her after losing both the man she had loved as well as her one and only daughter.
Eckhart,
She said, voice trembling.
now that I'm going to be a mother, I realize just how terrifying it actually is. The thought of losing your child, of losing you, or of something happening to you, I can't bear it. I had a dream last night about my mother from my old world. I left her behind alone. What if? What if I've done something terrible to her? What if I'm cursed to lose everything I love as a result?
Eckhart's expression softened, and he pulled her into his arms, cradling as if she were the most precious thing in the world.
Myne, listen to me.
He murmured, his voice steady and soothing.
You did nothing wrong. You were taken from that world, but that doesn't mean you abandoned your mother. She would have wanted you to be happy, to live a full life, just like you want for our child. And you're not cursed, Myne. You're blessed, with a second chance at life, at love, and now at being a mother. I promise you, I will do everything within my power to make sure you both are safe and happy.
Myne buried her face in his chest, letting his words wash over her. She could feel the steady beat of his heart, grounding her, reminding her that she was not alone. Eckhart was here, and he believed in their future.
I hope to the Supreme Couple that you are right, because if something happens to you or to our baby, I will chase after you up to the towering staircase.
You said that before I left.
Eckhart said with a dry chuckle.
And I mean it as much now as I did then.
Myne replied, heaving a sigh. Now that she felt Eckhart's arms around her, she felt the tension she'd been holding on to melt away. Her fears hadn't vanished completely, but they were tempered by Eckhart's reassuring words. Finally, she pulled back slightly, looking up at him with tear-filled eyes, but a small tentative smile on her lips.
You really think everything will be alright?
He smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek.
I know it will be. We have each other. And now we have this child. We're going to be a family, Myne. And nothing will ever take that away from us.
Myne nodded, her heart swelling with a mixture of love, fear, and hope. She leaned into Eckhart's embrace, letting herself believe in his words, in their future. For the first time since hearing the news, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of joy, of anticipation, for the life growing inside her. Eckhart kissed her forehead, a promise in the gentle touch.
It's still early, Myne. You should go back to sleep and rest a little more. I'll be here when you wake up.
She clung to him, her voice barely above a whisper.
No, don't go just yet. Stay with me, please.
He grinned, his eyes shining with humor and something infinitely more tender as he leaned in for a lingering kiss.
As you wish,
He murmured against her lips before beginning to undress. When he finally joined her in bed, wrapping his arms around her, Myne felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in days. The warmth of his body, his scent, the steady rise and fall of his chest against her cheek made her feel safe and somehow reassured. It was as if the world had finally righted itself. It was like finding a missing part of herself, a part that was vital as her own heart and necessary to her as breathing. She nestled closer, letting the comfort of his embrace soothe away the last of her lingering fears. Safe in his strong arms, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, everything really would be all right. End of chapter. notes. Okay, so you guys wanted there to be a baby? I was like, a baby in this mana economy? Okay. Anyway, looming apocalypse
Baby, don't
notwithstanding,
worry
right?
about a thing.
I think
'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright.
well, yeah, I think it's a nice thing to hope for, and babies always are nice. They always give hope and stuff. But yeah. So what do you guys think of the reaction that Myne had and Eckhart had? Did you expect them?
I
I
am very
wasn't-
glad.
Okay, so Patrick first and then Yukihime.
I wasn't expecting her to open up about her past life. I'm glad that she did though, because I mean, Eckhart at this point would definitely be accepting of anything that she puts before him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was an important part for the relationship, that he should know that about her. I just never had the chance to bring it up, so I was like, hey, this is a good part. I mean, I always felt like the issue with the mom and Dolores, the mom and Urano mom, was kind of like a sad thread that we never really got to like explore in this world, whereas in canon she was able to kind of revisit it and come to terms with it. So I wanted a little bit of something to tie back to that. Yeah, so I hope that it was an okay place to put it in there. Yukihime?
No, just what Patrick said. Like, I'm really glad she opened up to him, and that, I don't know, they have an even deeper connection. But like, yeah, just the occasional visits aren't just gonna do it. Like, I want them to be together.
It's only for 2 years. Hang in there.
Do you hear yourself?
2 years.
No.
Honestly, I think her first reaction with discovering that she's pregnant, when like the thought of becoming pregnant was so far away that it really is a surprise for everybody, especially mine, because she didn't prepare anything at all for it. Not physically, not mentally, not with things, nothing. So yeah, but I'm very happy that Eckhart was the one who say, "Oh, it's a gift for us," and I'm very glad that we have it now.
Well, I think Myne reacted exactly the way she would have reacted, because it's like her character, and it's like, I actually am not caught up to this point with reading yet, and it's like there were some signs. It's like, I'm wondering, and then I'm reading the role I'm supposed to read today, and it's like, yep, that confirms it. So I had
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I had that little theory going on in my head. It's like, yeah, when you least expect it, it's probably going to happen.
As always in canon, every single milestone is moved ahead by at least 3 years. Patrick.
So I liked something that Blockshot said in the chat. God's looking out for us. For us to know that Dragoner is not pleased by this at all.
I know. That is so sad. But yeah, it's true. They don't know that Dragoner, all she wants is to end it all. And they're only having this time of period of like this period of grace because somebody in the background, Rosamine, is, taking her sweet time about bringing an end to this. But we'll talk more about that. So, yeah, that's definitely everybody's like, oh, like Eckhart, so beautiful, so wonderful. And then Blockshort's like, yeah, but no, here, have some cold water. But it's valid though. It's valid. I don't know. At some point, we're gonna have to figure out like what's gonna happen, and you guys will find out soon enough. Yeah. All right. Was there anybody else who wanted to say something? I forget. I'm sorry for that. No, we're good. All right. It seems that we're good. Patrick?
I was just saying, I think we're good.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the second and final chapter of this day. So this is now chapter 99, and it is titled Goodbye, Part 2. You remember, we already had one goodbye before the first time he left at the sovereignty. Now it is the second goodbye from Eckhart. So, summary. How will Myne's pregnancy affect all their plans for her becoming a noble? Eckhart's thoughts on the future, Myne's pregnancy, and having to leave her again. Myne eventually drifted to sleep in Eckhart's arms, her breathing slow and even against his chest, her warmth seeping into him and anchoring him to this fleeting, precious moment. Eckhart remained awake, unwilling to let sleep steal a single second of this rare time together. He hadn't expected such a boom, to have a second chance at a family with someone he truly cared for and loved, someone who filled the void in his heart with her kindness and strength. In addition to that, to be given this chance to see her, to hold her close even if only for a moment, felt like a blessing he didn't deserve. He wanted to freeze this moment forever, to stay like this with her in his arms, away from the harsh realities of their world, because no amount of time with Myne would ever be enough. But as much as he cherished the moment, a bittersweet pang settled in his chest at the thought of returning to the sovereignty. Leaving her before had been difficult, but leaving her again, knowing she was pregnant and had just survived a traumatic attempt on her life, felt almost unbearable. It would test him far more than the first time he left her side. He could already feel the pull of duty and responsibility tugging at him, reminding him of the promises he had made to serve his Lord and protect him. But here, in this quiet room with Myne sleeping peacefully in his arms, those obligations seemed distant, almost unreal. He brushed the stray strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek. The sunlight streaming through the slit on the bed curtain cast a soft glow over her peaceful expression, and he couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful she looked, even in sleep. This was his future goddess of light, the woman he had given his name to and the mother of his unborn child. The thought filled him with a fierce, protective love, but also a gnawing sense of urgency. He knew they didn't have long to enjoy this quiet moment. In a little while he would have to slip out of the bed, careful not to wake Myne, and go to his room. There were things he needed to fetch for her to be left in the safekeeping of his mother. And then there were other errands he needed to complete on Lord Ferdinand's behalf in the castle and at his estate. The responsibilities that Eckhart carried for those he cared for were immense, but he bore them all willingly. It was his duty, and he wouldn't fail. That evening, after completing his errands for Lord Ferdinand, which included meeting Lord Sylvester and his father, Eckhart returned home for one final goodbye before his departure. When he stepped into the parlor, he found Myne sitting with his mother. A wave of relief washed over him at the sight of seeing her looking relatively well, but concern quickly followed.
Shouldn't you be resting?
Eckhart said with a worried frown. Myne shot him a reproachful look, but before she could retort, Elvira chimed in, her voice gentle but firm. My son is right, dear. You've been through a lot, and you should be conserving your strength for your child's sake. Between the two of them insisting, Myne had no choice but to relent. She sighed and rose slowly, giving Eckhart a pointed look as she passed.
You won't leave without saying goodbye this time, will you?
Eckhart's heart clenched at the anxiety in her eyes.
I promise, Myne. I'll come see you before I go.
I'll be waiting.
Myne said softly before her attendant escorted her upstairs. As the door closed behind them, Eckhart knew he couldn't avoid the conversation he needed to have with his mother. Elvira's gaze was steady, her dark eyes revealing nothing as he spoke about the aftermath of the recent attack. He explained how the culprits had been captured and their ties to a neighboring duchy uncovered.
They've all been caught, Mother, and I have proof of their ties to another duchy.
He said grimly.
Lord Ferdinand will handle the rest, ensuring proper reparations and punishments are carried out. Myne will be safe.
Elvira shook her head slowly. Perhaps for now, but others will come. As the mana situation worsens, people will become more desperate to capture someone as mana-rich as mine. Eckhart nodded, accepting the harsh truth.
I know. That's why I have to return and support Lord Ferdinand. I'm certain the only reason he allowed himself to be taken back to the sovereignty was to help save our country, and with it, mine.
Elvira's eyes softened. How do you feel about leaving her now, especially after everything that's happened? Eckhart hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words.
Every decision I make from now on affects not just me, but Myne and our child, too.
He thought of Myne's earlier confession, how terrified she had been at the thought of being left all alone. The haunted look in her eyes had unsettled him. He had tried to reassure her that everything would be all right, but he knew the risks. He could no longer afford to be so cavalier.
I have to be careful and make sure I come back safely. We have so much to plan for now, and with her becoming a mother...
Speaking of plans, what about Lord Ferdinand's arrangements for Myne to enter the academy next winter and eventually become a noble? With her pregnancy and then having to provide mana in the baby's first year, those plans will have to be delayed. And with that, your starbind, as well as her official introduction to noble society.
I know. We didn't expect this timing, and I realize it complicates things.
Eckhart admitted, a hint of frustration in his voice.
But I can't say I regret it. I will never regret the chance to be a father.
Elvira watched him carefully before speaking again. You're leaving mana for your child, I presume? Eckhart nodded and gestured to his attendant, Erminold, who stepped forward with a small box.
I filled as many face stones as I could, taking several mana-restoring potions to do so. Please use them to provide mana for my child while I'm away. I'll send more regularly.
Elvira took the box with a solemn nod. Of course, Eckhart. I'll make sure your child is cared for.
Thank you, Mother, for looking after them in my absence.
He said gratefully. Elvira nodded once and smiled at him. This time, Eckhart had the intention that she was talking to him as a mother would her son. I'll ask again. Now that you're going to be a father, do you still have the same resolve as when you left the first time? Eckhart's expression darkened as memories of their last conversation surfaced in his mind.
Back then, I swore to protect Lord Ferdinand no matter what, even if it meant defending him to the death. I believed it was my duty to protect Myne's heart, and I was certain it would break beyond repair if something happened to Lord Ferdinand.
Elvira's expression was a little sorrowful but also tender. And now, do you still think that way? Won't her heart break if you ascend to the distant heights? Eckhart was at a loss for words. He had not yet let himself consider the impact of his death on Myne. Elvira pressed on, reminding him of what he had said before, that everything would be all right as long as Ferdinand returned to Myne.
I'm not so sure I think the same way anymore.
He admitted slowly.
But my resolve is still strong. As long as I stay alive and bring Ferdinand home, I'll be content. I want to return to Myne and be happy with her, to see our child grow and thrive.
A fleeting vision crossed his mind, of returning to Ehrenfest, of Myne waiting for him with her child in her arms, of quiet, peaceful days filled with laughter and love. And if Lord Ferdinand doesn't return? Elvira asked, shattering his reverie. Eckhart's eyes hardened with determination.
There is no world where I will let that happen. We will return safely. In the meantime, keep yourself busy with your 2 future daughters-in-law.
Dolores won't be my daughter-in-law, Elvira replied with a wry smile. She's decided she wouldn't make a proper wife for a Lindbergh and will be returning home soon. Eckhart raised an eyebrow.
How is Cornelius taking it?
You know your brother. He's angry, claiming that she treated him badly. But he neglected her, then acted as if he wanted out of the engagement, flirting with every girl around him, even if it was for show. He has to reap what he has sown, and I suspect he and Hartmut won't be on speaking terms after this. Not after Cornelius hurt the person that's the most precious to him.
Oh?
Eckhart said, catching her meaning.
So it's like that between Hartmut and Dolores?
Elvira nodded. It is. Strange as it may sound, it is.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they deserve each other.
Eckhart said coldly. Isn't that a bit harsh? Elvira asked. Dolores did go above and beyond to save Myne.
She damn well should have. She's the one who put her at risk in the first place. Myne was too generous. She went too far regenerating her hand, putting herself at such risk.
Elvira sighed, sadness etched into her features. I'm so sorry, Eckhart. I didn't know Myne was pregnant. The thought did cross my mind, but I dismissed it since there was the mana disparity to consider. Plus, I didn't see any of the usual signs. I would never have put her in such danger if I had known. I can only thank the gods everything went well. Even I benefited from this ordeal. Lady Christine's father was working with Lord Bassam. I don't think your father is foolish enough to take his daughter as his wife, no matter how much he fancies her.
I'm happy for you, Mother. As for my father, I should have a talk with him.
Don't bother, dear, Elvira said with a resigned smile. It's not your place to do so. Besides, some fates are inescapable, and I don't think there exists a world where your father and I will see eye to eye, let alone love each other as I once hoped. But seeing you and Myne together, to see you alive and hopeful once again, free from the bitterness of the past, it's more than I could have ever hoped for, my son. Eckhart looked into his mother's dark eyes and saw tears glistening there. His mother crying? It was a sight he hadn't expected, and it struck him deeply.
Mother,
But before Eckhart could finish speaking, six bells struck, cutting him off. Elvira's expression shifted, and she urged him gently. Go quickly to see Myne. You don't have much time left. I've arranged for your dinner to be taken up to her parlor, so you will have a little extra time together. Eckhart nodded, gratitude flooding through him.
Thank you, Mother.
He left the room with a final nod to Elvira, his footsteps echoing down the hall as he hurried upstairs to find Myne. Elvira watched him go, her heart aching with a blend of pride and sorrow. As the sound of Eckhart's footsteps faded, Elvira turned her attention to the box he had left behind. She carefully lifted the lid, revealing 6 large face stones, each pulsing with a soft, iridescent glow. The stones were brimming with his mana, a testament to his relentless dedication. How had he managed to fill so many in such a short time? Sight filled her with a deep, poignant sense of admiration. He was working tirelessly for the sake of his unborn child, pouring all his strength and love into these small, glowing gems. Elvira's fingers traced the contour of the face stones, her heart swelling with a fierce resolve. She had always considered Myne a cherished part of their family, but now the bond felt even more profound. She could no longer think of Myne as anything but her own daughter. No, Elvira corrected herself. As far as she was concerned, Myne was her daughter in every sense of the word, as near and dear to her as her flesh and blood. She closed the box once more and directed Carwillan to take it to her rooms for safekeeping. Once Elvira's attendant was gone and Elvira was all alone, she closed her eyes and whispered a quiet prayer to the gods. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked for their protection over her children, imploring them to watch over them in the days to come. Dinner was indeed waiting for him upstairs in Myne's parlor, a beautiful spread set for 2 that reminded Eckhart of the intimate meals they'd shared back in Myne's house. The aroma of roasted meat and freshly baked bread filled the room, mingling with the warm, comforting glow of the crackling fire. A bottle of wine sat open on the table, its deep red liquid gleaming in the firelight, while Veritas played a gentle, melodic tune, filling the air with a soft, soothing harmony. But Eckhart barely noticed any of it. His eyes immediately sought Myne, and everything else seemed to blur and fade away. She was the only thing that mattered, the only thing that he needed. Finding her waiting for him, a soft smile on his lips, he crossed the room in a few swift strides and scooped her up into his arms. Myne made a small sound of delight and wrapped her arms around him as he carried her away. The ache in his chest intensified as he held her close, knowing that this might be the last time together for a long while. Time was definitely not on their side. He was due at the castle at 7th bell, and Dragoner was spinning her threads much too quickly. But while they couldn't afford to linger, that didn't stop them from making the most of the precious moments they had. He carried Myne to her room, his heart pounding, his blood racing in anticipation. Their kisses were both urgent and tender, full of everything that they couldn't put into words. As they held each other tightly, Eckhart tried to etch into his memory the feel of her in his arms, the warmth of her body against his, the way her breath hitched with every kiss.
I'll come back to you,
Eckhart whispered against her hair, his voice thick with emotion.
I promise. We have so much to look forward to, Myne.
Myne nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears.
I'll be here, waiting for you.
She replied softly, her fingers tracing the lines of his face as if to commit them to memory.
Take care of yourself, for us, for our child.
Eckhart's heart swelled with love and resolve. He kissed her once more before lowering himself, his lips trailing down her body with reverence, until he pressed a soft kiss at her belly. He glanced up at Myne and saw her tear-filled gaze resting on him, her eyes overflowing with so much affection that his heart strained painfully at the thought of having to part with her so soon.
I'm sorry, Myne,
he said, his hands playing over the slight swell of her belly.
While I'm gone, I won't be able to do this for you.
He channeled a steady stream of mana into her. She gasped quietly as she received it, her hands gripping the sheets and her toes curling at the sensation, but she seemed to understand what he was doing and why. Eckhart continued, his blue gaze earnest, his voice soft and apologetic.
I won't be here as your body changes and you begin to have your birthing pains. Unless I get especially lucky, I won't be here to hold your hand and support you during the birth of our first child. And you probably won't be able to join us at the Royal Academy for yet another year at least.
I understand.
Myne said softly, her fingers threading through his hair tenderly. Her touch, so gentle and loving, eased the weight in his heart. Eckhart leaned into her caress, then he took hold of her palm and kissed it.
Do you not regret it?
He asked, his voice barely above a whisper.
No,
She said firmly.
never. I may have been afraid, but Eckhart, I would never regret having a baby with you. Even during this challenging time, I'm sure it's in the exact same way you would never regret following Ferdinand to the sovereign to protect him.
Her golden eyes met his, and he saw a maturity in them that hadn't been there before. She was no longer the girl who would have cried or looked at the future with anxiety. She was a woman now, strong and determined.
I've been thinking all day about what we talked about this morning.
She continued, her voice soft and pensive.
I realized that I can't afford to be spooked by pointless what ifs. So I promise I will be strong. Because it's not just me, but our baby that I have to protect. So when you go, do so without worry. I don't want you growing anxious about us when you have to focus on your job. It is the duty of a Linkberg wife to be strong, and I'm determined to live up to the name.
You already do,
Eckhart whispered, raising himself on forearms to kiss her again and again.
I'm so proud of you, Myne. You always take my breath away.
She blushed, her cheeks turning a soft pink as she playfully smacked his shoulder and gave him a teasing look.
You're such a flatterer.
He chuckled, his eyes drinking in the sight of her. Bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, she looked so bewitching that he couldn't resist pulling her back into his arms, their lips meeting in a kiss that seemed to suspend time. In that moment, all thoughts of dinner, of responsibilities, of the world outside, they all faded away. They lost a few more precious minutes wrapped up in each other, savoring the closeness that they knew would have to end all too soon. It wasn't until a dreaded knock sounded at the door that reality came crashing back, a harsh reminder that their time was up, and they could no longer ignore the world outside their little bubble.
No healing.
Myne reminded him, repeating what she told him before.
But
what?
Eckhart asked, anticipation in his voice. At that moment, he knew that she could ask of him anything, and he wouldn't hesitate to move heaven and earth to grant her her wish, whatever it might be.
say it to me before you go.
She said, softly caressing his forearm.
I didn't lie to you last time, but I want you to say those words before you leave.
Eckhart leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, his lips lingering against her skin for a moment longer than necessary.
I love you, Myne.
He whispered.
Now and forever, I will always love you.
He pulled back slightly to look into her eyes. True to her words, she did not cry. There were no tears, only determination and strength, and her gaze was filled with an ocean's worth of love and trust. And then she smiled.
And I love you,
she said at last, her voice steady and sure, resonating with all the certainty of someone who knew her heart.
I love you, Eckhart.
Eckhart gasped softly as a profound realization settled within him. Starbind or not, their lives and fates were irrevocably entwined. No matter what happened or where his duties led him, he would always belong to Myne, and she to him. He hugged her tightly, pressing a final kiss to her lips before saying goodbye.
But not for long. I'll be back soon, and when I do, we'll be a family.
The thought warmed him as he stepped into the cold night, the icy air biting at his cheeks. He mounted his high beast and took toward the starry sky above, flying toward the castle, the sovereignty, and the uncertain future that awaited. Yet he carried her words and the warmth she gave him close to his heart, knowing that, no matter what trials lay ahead, he would always rely on the strength and love of the woman who had changed his life forever. His Myne. End of part 8, end of chapter.
So what was that about part 6 being the last part?
Yeah. Well, I always like to say that, but I did put a note here. Part 9 is the final part. I promise. It is the final part. There's no more parts after 9. So,
Famous last words.
this time I'm gonna make sure that they're, yeah, they
Did
will.
you see my writer's note?
Pardon?
Did you see my writer note? My notes.
Oh, where are the notes?
Oh, I see.
Oh, the notes. I don't mind if it's not. Well, we'll talk about it when we reach the end. I don't know if you guys will want more once we reach the end. We'll see. But I already have another.
We reached the quote-unquote end of canon, and we definitely wanted more after that.
Yeah, but this isn't canon. This is just a fanfic. But yeah, we'll see.
Not just a fanfic. I am crying here. Like, I'm actually crying. Like, this is so beautiful. They are so cute. I am so scared. You have given me. I don't have anxiety in general, but you have given me anxiety.
Why? Okay, what about this is giving you anxiety? I want to understand. I thought it was just good times, fluffy times. Why is this anxiety giving?
I don't trust you. Like, you just give me something nice and then just throw it out of the window. I don't trust you, girl. I don't trust you at all.
I thought we were friends, Yukihime. How could you say? Surely you're the only one that thinks the same way. Everybody has let me out.
I don't know, like, I'm just really scared, and especially like the last I think it's okay to say this now, but like when I was reading this, I remember that Magpie once said, hey, you should read the tags, like for the haters and stuff. But I totally said, I'm not reading the tags, because usually I'm not reading the tags. Like when I reread this recently in autumn, I decided to like actually read the tags. And right then she posted this chapter, I think, or around this one, and she tagged this as miscarriage, and I was like, girl, what? Girl, what?
Oh, that, yeah.
And then she took it down a day later, like, just to gaslight me and like keep me on my toes.
Well, okay.
I was actually slightly afraid when she was in pain and clutching at her stomach that it was going to be a miscarriage.
Yeah, I was too.
It was kind of written as if she was going to, but it's the power of a plot armor that she did not. Also, here's the thing. Let me explain the miscarriage tag. So there's a lot of different people who have a lot of different ideas about what is necessary for tagging. So, for example, there's some people that they have sensibilities about something like pregnancy, for example. So we have to put it in there for like people who might be bothered by that topic. So I put it in there.
Trigger warnings.
Yeah, that's it. So trigger warnings or content warnings. So then, because there was such a to-do and so much wording that kind of was leading for you guys to expect that maybe there would be a miscarriage, I also added miscarriage there just to warn people that, hey, this might also like be triggering. But I didn't I didn't put it because there was going to be a miscarriage. I just put it there to warn people that there would be like some like this something that would appear to look at like a miscarriage. So, and I decided.
You heard it.
And then
You heard it from the magpie's mouth itself. She only meant to scare us.
No. I did not mean to. I actually meant to warn people, because anyway. So, and then when Yukihime mentioned that about like, oh my gosh, we exchanged a little bit of like messaging after that, and I was like, you know what, it's misleading, like, so I'm just going to, so I decided from then on, I'm just going to update the tags as we go, and then I'm gonna of course mess it up for some folks. I won't always get it right, but.
Yeah, no, I get it. It depends. A lot of people have different opinions about how tags can be. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm looking at it, and you do have pregnancy, so I feel like that's enough to like warn people about like pregnancy and everything relating to it. Kind of like, yeah, I get the trigger warnings, and like. I do encourage people to use them because like some people do need to be warned behind. That's why I'm not generally reading the tags, because I'm not the person that suffers or anything. So
Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I went in and just kind of deleted a whole bunch of tags. So there's not as many tags as there used to be. I was like, man,
Yeah,
I think it's just
I'm seeing it.
overkill. It's just overkill. So, I mean,
I don't know.
yeah. So,
Someone will be upset anyway at some point, so
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I mean, I don't want to upset people, and I really don't want them to get upset. So I just do my best, but I also don't want to
Yeah,
like
I know.
She's lying.
confuse people.
She wants to upset you all.
Yeah.
In the normal way,
Nice.
not in a.
Yeah, not in a like
Exactly.
like
In another way.
yeah.
She doesn't want to upset us. She just wants to traumatize us. It's different, Patrick.
Fair enough. Yes. Okay, so I like stories that have a lot of feels and roller coasters and stuff like that. Some twists here and
What?
stuff. So I
The
figured
woman-
I wanted
the
to write a
woman who-
story like this. Okay.
The woman who likes telenovelas, she likes to have emotions in her stories.
Not quite telenovelas, but I like romance novels. And I like to follow. I started trying to follow the story beats, but then it just kind of just unraveled because this is not the usual structure that a romance would follow. So we'll see how it goes. In the end, I'll go back and analyze what I did and why. But it's been like almost 3 years in the writing, so there's the writing and the story has changed significantly since I first conceived it. So,
Yeah, but
Well, I mean,
how have you
there-
as a person, you know? So you have changed also.
that is true.
there are many professional authors who take years to write their stories, and I'm not going to mention George Martin because he pretty much has given up on Game of Thrones. But one of my favorites, Robert Jordan, it would be like 3, 4, 5 years in between books when he was writing The Wheel of Time, and then he passed away before finishing it. So Brandon Sanderson finished it for him.
Right. Yeah, so it happens, but I'm really, really shooting for finishing this soon. Maybe within the month if I feel especially blessed by Conceal. But yeah, 3 years has been enough. I really want to move on to another project that I've been just itching to write. So, yeah, Teal knows all about it.
Can we get a hint?
I think I already told you guys. I'll tell you guys offline.
Okay.
I'm just reading through the comments right now. So Yukihime finds Eckhart is so sweet. I found that a lot of people, they love Eckhart in this fanfic, and that's cool because I like Eckhart. But like they're like, yeah, I really like how you wrote Eckhart. I'm like, that's nice. I like his character arc. Like I always thought that there was a lot of potential for him to, not just be like Ferdinand Stan and that's it. I think that there's other depths. So hopefully we get a little bit of that. But yeah, Eckhart, I think.
Oh yeah,
Hmm?
it's actually a really good thing to get yourself out of your comfort zone. Like, you always want to concentrate on, for instance, the romantic pairing that you like most, but trying to get out of that, you look at, okay, maybe these characters, maybe they'll have a good pairing, and you've shown us that with a few characters in this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to stretch the limits of what can happen in this world. If you work hard enough at it, you can justify it. Yeah, you have to put work into it. So try 2.5 years worth of it. All right. Meanwhile, Blockshrug also says, Blockshrug, you keep on bringing these comments and I can't help but read them. It says, while all of this, a blood-stained mana blade clattering to the ground is echoing through my mind. Yes, you guys, don't forget about that in chapter, I don't know what chapter it was. There's bound to be some kind of something. Who knows whose it is though, so, but just keep it in the back of your mind. Just keep it in the back. Don't let it bother you too much. Yeah, don't let it bother you too much. And okay, they deserve each other. So Eckhart, when he hears that Harwood and Dolores are an item now, or like she left his brother, he's like, cool, fine, they deserve each other. Remember, he hates Hartmut. Do you guys agree with his take on Dolores and Hartmut? Do they deserve each other, or does Dolores? Do you think Dolores is gonna be okay in that respect? What do you guys think?
He hasn't
She
seen the
definitely
growth.
grown.
I think it was Yukihime and then Hirami.
Okay. So she really has grown on me as a certified Dolores hater in the beginning. Yeah, she's really grown a lot, and yeah, for the hard mood that is going on here and the relationship you created between them, where they have like this whole interesting dynamic that he doesn't really have with anyone else in canon. I like it. They kind of bring out a little bit of the worst in each other, but also a little bit of the best. So like, I really feel like they deserve each other, unironically.
All right. So somebody says, Hirami says, do Dolores has the Yukihime approval for Hartmut? What do you
Yes.
Yes, she gave her approval.
Yeah, she does. Hirami, you were gonna say something earlier.
Oh, sorry. I didn't say anything. I was.
Oh,
I think it was Butterfly.
Oh, sorry,
It was
Butterfly.
me.
Sorry, Butterfly. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was going to say is Eckhart hasn't seen the growth that Dolores has had with Myne over the last while here, and I actually kind of liked Dolores at the beginning, so I think it was kind of heading in that direction from the very beginning, from little foreshadowing things, so it's not a surprise.
Right. So I think in a way, if things hadn't gone as badly as they did in the salon, maybe they could have kind of like been like two awkward turtles, one who's like a commoner who's really new at the noble world but a little better at, swimming in society, and then this noble who is really awkward with socializing and she just needs all the help. I don't know. Kind of feel like Myne would have taken her on as a project, maybe. I don't know. Plus, they would have probably bonded over books. I don't know. Who knows? It's all up in the air. Write a fanfic about the fanfic. What if, right? But yeah, Dolores. We will get a Dolores chapter at some point, kind of to tie her the last threads, tie those loose threads up. But not for some time. Let's see. Blockshot is praying Oh, should Saria, goddess of wind, hold your arms around this couple and their onboard child to protect them from harm. Aww. Aw, Blockshore, that is such a beautiful prayer. I love it.
He also slanders you a little bit later,
Says
and I think it's hilarious.
Magpie learned from the walking trauma dispenser Ferdinand how to treat people. Give them a little bit of kindness, just a little at a time, right?
Yes.
You guys slander me. I am. Well, I admire Ferdinand in many respects. I am far kinder than he is. Okay. All right. So I think that covers all of today's read along. If you want to read ahead and find out what's happening in the rest of the series, if you feel you can't, suspense is killing you, then by all means, go to the link on the description of this video so you can continue reading, pick up from where we left off. Let's see, this Wednesday that's coming up, let me see. What are we doing? So we're going to be reading, an interlude. We're going back to the sovereignty. So you guys know after every part ends and before another part begins, we have interludes, which kind of cover time periods that this part kind of glossed over. So, yeah. So we're having that, and it's Rosamund and Ferdinand. And then from there, it's a whole bunch of sovereignty stuff, because we need to know, how does Ferdinand react to all of this, to the knowledge that Myne is having a baby? Yeah, you guys. A bunch of stuff is coming up, so I hope you guys...
Jealousy.
I hope you guys... Yes. Love to see it. I hope you guys join me on Wednesday to read some more. Again, if you want to be part of the gang to read, join us. We will be here on the Discord server. You can access via Ko-fi. Also, if you want to keep supporting your magpie, subscribe if you haven't already, and like, comment,
Always
share.
support your magpie.
Yes, do so. I would appreciate it. Okay, everybody. Thank you for reading. Oh, sorry. Once again, thank you to the following people who read. Hirami was reading Myne. Yukihime read Fran. Little Butterfly read The Doctor. Teal read Eckhart. And Patrick was just heckling. So...
It's what I do.
Yeah. You're saving your voice for that, I see. Thank you guys for reading, and to Hirami and Teal for highlighting these chapters. You guys are amazing as always. We will see you on Wednesday afternoon, everybody, 4 p.m. Pacific. Take care. Bye. Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas noches.
Ciao.
Adios.
Well,